Great. Well, hello.
Morning. I was just bringing it up on my phone at the same time while that little intro video was going.
Yeah, at least we know with the intro video that we're going to start after it happens.
That's right.
See, I was watching it thinking, this is going to be great.
Glad I tuned in. Oh, loads of people here. I noticed. No, I've lost it. How many people are watching? Does it say 7? That's us.
7, yeah, it said 7 on mine when I logged in.
Means we hit the big time.
People are already commenting on their favourite guitar build or guitar related channels, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what's interesting as well is there's some I don't know. Like I know I've watched Dave Dixon, but I can't remember his work at all. You looked at me in horror there.
You should know Dave.
Yeah, I must know him, but does he does he go under that name, or is it like a guitar company name?
Nope, he goes under
Dave Dixon. Oh yeah, I must have seen it. And who's KBC? King Bespoke Creations, idiot. Yeah, right in there.
You forgot about our last video already. And I get thrown by initials and abbreviations as well.
Yeah, I was saying to someone how I'm struggling with names. I'm getting better at it, but because everyone's got a different YouTube name to what their actual name is, and sometimes different to Instagram, it's just all confusing.
Yeah, it's when it's different on Instagram, that's when I get confused, that I kind of get one in my head and then it's something else on Instagram. And you know,
Instagram is just pretty dazzling pictures, and I don't think too much.
That's fair enough. While we're here, did either of you try Threads out, the Instagram chat?
Mm-mm.
No, I've stayed away from that. I'm kind of happy with YouTube and Instagram. That kind of works for me without being too overwhelmed by a lot of other stuff. And when I've kind of, tried to look at other things, it's just gets too confusing. So that's what I'm doing, and what I'm sort of sharing and looking at for other people works for me at the moment. So I'm sticking with that.
I tried Threads for a couple of days and realised it just felt a bit like Twitter with it. I just don't like it, so I gave up.
See, new things are stupid. I'm too busy, yelling at kids on my lawn.
Cool. So look, people are suggesting what they like. Please carry on. I'll try and tag some a bit later on the video. But if you people watch in the future, put links in the actual description, because I think you'll be able to do that. I think in our description you'll be able to actually do an @ and tag channels. I'm not sure if that works for every channel. It might be you've got to be over a certain amount of subscribers or whatever. But I know in our description I just tag all of us three and it goes straight to our YouTube pages.
Yep.
I was wondering how you two went about deciding what your favorite ones were.
I had to think. I was like, it's been a while since I paid attention to some of them, so I was trying to remember what all I'd seen, and there were names that came to mind, but and then I had to go to my subscriptions and go look, and then I wound up with a list that was bigger than I could manage. I'm probably missing.
For me, I kind of thought sort of outside of guitar building sort of channels, because I think it's good to see what a lot of people like, but we're kind of familiar with a lot of those ones, and the ones that we'd sort of mentioned that are guitar building, I reckon everyone in the chat would kind of know as well, and they're the ones that where I sort of learnt from. So my sort of picks are either like guitar playing or guitar gear stuff, or things that I might have been watching, for a long time.
Yeah, same here. I didn't include any builders, but I've noticed maybe I just don't have as much time, or maybe I just have more channels that I follow, but there's no channel that I watch every single video they put up. There used to be some where I tried my best to see everything they did, and now I just sort of dip in and dip out. So it's mine are mainly things that I've come across recently that I've found interesting, or a couple that I've been following for years and never really watched properly, and that something about them just started appealing to me.
I've got one or two that when I do remember, I'll see something that remind me he exists, and I'll kind of dive into quite a few of his junk, just disappear for a little while. But he's goofy, so.
What I'll do, I haven't done it yet because I didn't want to spoil anything, and also I don't know what Arran's are, but I'll put links in the description after we finish so people can.
And that's the other thing people should know as well. We haven't talked about this or shared what we've come up with, so we could have some of the same, but for all of us, it'll be a surprise as well hearing.
Yeah, Scott sent me some links, but I didn't look at them properly.
Oh, okay, there you go.
To avoid knowing.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah. Right.
Thanks, Corey's put Fletcher. I want just going to jump in quick because there's 4 that I've got, and Fletcher's was my 5th one. So he is a guitar building channel. So I've mentioned him before, and other people have. And an Aussie builder who was probably one of the first to make guitar building videos. And that was probably, for my first couple of builds, it was almost like a tutorial that, I'd sort of watched all of his series, and then as I was building, I would, literally use that as a watch. Let's watch this 5 minutes and stop and pause and go off and do that, and then come back and watch again. So for me, in terms of like an instructional guitar building channel, he's sort of the one that I think was initially that I watched a lot just to learn how to do it step by step, and then sort of after that it's all the inspirational stuff and seeing what other people are doing to sort of share. So he's the one out of mine that is the only guitar building one.
So does that mean he's been around for a long time then, if he was one of your early ones you followed? Or?
Yeah, I think his videos are from about 10 years ago. And he did a range of videos over, I think, 3 or 4 years, and then he's basically done very, very few videos since then. He had one out maybe a year ago, a bit over a year, but he's got like tons of followers just because he was one of the first to kind of have videos, and also the video quality for YouTube videos that are 10 or 12 years old probably now. The video quality is spot on, so he gets in. He gets all the right angles so you can see exactly what he's doing, and it's clear and it's crisp and really clear and concise information. So, but yeah, he doesn't post sort of regular videos at all. All of them are from years and years ago.
That'll be good to go back and see an archive then.
I didn't know about Freddy's Frets. I'll have to check him out.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to, as well as going through any links that you two suggest, I'll go back and look through the comments that people put in the live stream.
Honestly, most of mine, if you haven't heard of them, I would be surprised.
What's your first one then?
Well, I couldn't get it down to 5. I got 7. But I've got them kind of in categories now. For players, there are 2 that I there are times that I just I'll run across something of theirs and it's just amazing to sit and listen to. Justin Johnson, because he does a lot of slide, a lot of Delta blues type stuff, and anybody who's done cigar box guitars has to know Justin, right? Another one I ran across on, I think Instagram, like a couple years ago. It's a little African girl that just plays her ass off. It's Helen eBay music. Every time I hear her play, she gets infinitely better. Yeah, I mean, she's amazing. Then I got a couple of teachers, Ben Eller. Most people.
Those 2 then, are their videos all like them playing original songs, or is it?
Yeah. Well, I say that. Justin, I remember watching him play. So what was it? Damn it! But he played something on his 1-string shovel guitar that was I mean, he does cover some stuff, but most of the time it's original stuff. She, it may be the same situation, but most of what I've seen from her, it seems original. I don't know why I'm not sharing screen. That would make sense.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. I've got a few pages open.
While you're doing that, Justin Johnson, he was one that I watched, when I started mucking around the cigar box guitars as well. And he came to, he did a tour of Australia, and I saw him at a music festival. It was probably 7 or 8 years ago, and, lined up afterwards to buy a CD and had a chat. And that's when I had first just started, building the tin box guitars. And, in the couple of minutes I had in my turn in the queue, I quizzed him, just, lots of questions. And he was super friendly and, helpful. And, but as a, standard sort of blues guitarist as well, a lot of his videos is just a skilled, muso, sort of Delta blues, but does the, everything, yeah.
Well, it's awesome you got to talk to him. That's cool.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, so anyway, on the player side, like I said, Justin, and oh man, all right, hang on, I screwed it up again. It's supposed to be looking at window, not tab. Oh, window. There we go. Duh. Okay. So Justin, if you haven't seen him, dude's amazing.
Yep.
Helen, most of you probably haven't heard Helen, and you gotta listen. You gotta watch her play for a minute. She's freaking incredible. So those were the players. On the teacher side, Ben Eller, most people know him and his Aunt Susie jokes. That's one of the things that first got me. He's talking so serious, and then that's where your Aunt Susie blah blah blah. She always cracked me up.
I always find it interesting when we're thinking about teachers like that. What is it about him that you like? Because I find some teachers are really accessible, but maybe they're not teaching you as well as some of the ones that seem less friendly.
Well, most of the teachers, it's not like I really follow along and try to learn much, but sometimes they've got some interesting things that they're talking about, like alternate picking techniques and some things that I just hadn't thought of. This guy just happens to be, super entertaining. And all of them seem to be, really, really good. So, they're on the internet. They must, know what they're talking about. Artie Guitar, he's a little less animated than Ben, but he usually has some good stuff. But he does a lot of he'll look at like Eddie and, break down some of the things that make the style, of Eddie. Does some of that kind of stuff.
Sorry, I'm interrupting. I thought you were about to change tabs. I was trying to jump in.
Yeah, but he's pretty entertaining to watch. It's very often really interesting and entertaining how he breaks down, the habits and techniques of individual, artists.
Yeah, I only recently came across him, and I think he's great. I saw a video of his the other day where he was looking at Kiss playing live, and they had a problem with a backing track. And I wouldn't have noticed that at all, but he went into what it's like to play live with a backing track, how you do it, how it's recorded, what the issue was and why it went wrong. And it's you're learning something from someone that's got that experience and is really showing you something you wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah, I know. I've seen some where he, talks about, I gotta stop saying, he talks about tab books that we had in the 80s and some of the problems that they had. He'll talk about how, this particular riff, everybody tends to play it this way, but really it should be played this way. It's pretty technical. And then I got another category of just kind of all things guitar. And Stevie T, if you don't know this goofball, I remember a long time ago, the first time I saw one of his videos, or 2 or 3, and I I posted a comment that just said, "I hate you." He's so over the top that it's irritating at some point. And I always felt bad about doing that. And it wasn't too long ago I was watching something of his, and I posted a comment and I said, "Years ago, dude, I was sitting here scrolling and I posted that I hate you and I love you, Stevie."
Yeah.
He does some hilarious stuff. And he does all kinds of goofiness, but he plays exceptionally well. But he'll do things like he'll look at bad solos and he'll give them a shred-dimtion where he tries to kind of take the basics of what a horrible thing they did and turn it into an awesome solo. There's another thing he's done a lot of that all of a sudden I can't remember.
He's one of those ones that like non-guitar playing friends of mine would send me like links to his videos. Like, look at this crazy video or something, and you'd watch them and then you have a laugh and then I'd kind of forget about it. And it was like years later then I actually got on and had a look at his channel and a few things, and then realised how good he actually is and what a good player he is, rather than just the comedy aspect of what he does.
Yeah.
I saw a video the other day of him where he was, get this right, what was he doing? He was extending a neck somehow, and he was in a guitar shop and having to do it. And it was really, entertaining and weird and quite funny. But it was one of those things where it was a bit like revealing what guitarists don't know about how a guitar works.
Yeah.
And that made it really interesting.
Yeah, that one was pretty ridiculous.
I always found his guitar videos brilliant, but I stopped. I unfollowed him, in fact, a while ago because I just started getting annoyed that my stream kept getting filled up with non-guitar sort of things that he was doing. He was doing things that were a bit more like I just saw when you scroll down about kids' TV programs and things, and I don't know. It was like. But that was the time when I was trying to watch every video of everyone that I was subscribed to.
Yeah.
I guess.
Even those are, kind of mind-numbingly entertaining.
Yeah, he's refreshing for sure.
He's done somewhere like there's a commercial where they've got somebody holding a guitar, acting like they're playing, who clearly know nothing about what they're doing, and he'll he'll play what.
Yeah, whatever.
What they did, what that would have actually sounded like, which is pretty horrific.
Yeah, I've seen those too. Yeah.
So he does some pretty entertaining stuff. He's probably my favorite on this list, just because he's goofy.
He did. Was it him who did the play what it looks like the Crossroads I think
yes.
Who was it? I forgot his name. The Karate Kid.
Yeah.
Man. Like the solo that he played in Crossroads, he kind of recreated that based on where his fingers were.
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah,
yeah, that was pretty brilliant. And then I got Music is Win, and honestly, he's a lot like Art of Guitar. But it's kind of fun to watch him. A lot of times he'll find something that he needs to practice or he wants to learn, and does 50 million iterations of practice and then comes back and plays it, and it's he's fun to watch play because he is really good. I know you remember, I don't remember if it was the second Great Guitar Build-Off, Morningstar did his glass guitar. He sent one to this dude, I forgot his actual name, but he did an unboxing and a review and everything, and it was just interesting to see him, review a guitar made by somebody from the GGBO. But I've always enjoyed him. None of these I really follow all the time, but they cross my feed and I'm like, oh yeah, this would be great to watch right now.
I've seen some of his ones where he sort of breaks down how a song's written or how a solo's written as well. He's great, and he had an interview with Paul Reed Smith, which which I found really interesting. And I got a lot from that about thinking about how a guitar's made, and it was really interesting seeing that conversation between him as a player and Paul Reed Smith as a very wizened builder, if that's the word.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that, but I saw that too. And then my only other one is CS Guitars, our good buddy from the GGBO. He's usually really fun to watch, even though sometimes he delves into some gear stuff that doesn't mean that much to me. But very often he's pretty fun.
Have you seen much of his, Arran?
Yeah, some, not a lot. I don't think I'm subscribed to him, but yeah, around when he was in the Great Guitar Build-Off, I was sort of watching all his videos then. But yeah, I think a few that have come up on my feed I've watched from time to time.
Mm. Yeah, I definitely subscribe to him, but I don't watch all his stuff at all. What I like about him is when he's breaking down how something works, like explaining different types of what's the difference between distortion and fuzz or whatever. He explains things really well.
Yeah, he's one that I probably should subscribe and have a look.
Well, I mean, you can see how much of his stuff I've actually watched on what's visible at the moment. But yeah, so those are my guys. I don't know what else to say. They're awesome.
Maybe we'll have a bigger chat at the end about why we follow different types of things, like why we follow teachers and things. Because I've actually got let me share my screen. There it is. My first one is Scott's Bass Lessons, who I started following years ago as a bass player. Just found him useful to follow along. But then I haven't watched any of his stuff for ages because I don't really play very often. But recently I've got back into him because he co-hosts with a guy, I think his name's Ian, I've forgotten his name now. I think their energy is just brilliant. But what they often do is have something like this. This episode, which I watched last night, was looking at the 4 people that play bass for Metallica, and they discuss the differences in how they play, the difference in their setups, the difference in their guitars they play. And often they'll change guitars and they'll be demoing what they're talking about at the same time, and they'll show why a different bass has a different type of sound or why using different strings is different. And all the way through it, they'll play riffs, and they'll put up the tab, and you can download the tab as well. So although it's like a teaching episode, I just find them entirely entertaining to watch because they're so funny together. But also the way they package everything is just really interesting. That idea of that the best Metallica bassist was just a good way into discussing different styles of rock music, really. But also I think they must be very similar age to me because they often talk about the bass guitarists they grew up listening to and how that influenced them.
Awesome.
Shall I go on to another one before I skip back to you, Arran?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you know this Andre Flood?
No, I don't think I'm familiar at all.
Just totally out of the blue was recommended to me, I think, by YouTube's algorithm. And he does things that I don't watch at all with his teaching, which seems really good, but it's just not something I'm interested in. But then he also does things like this. So he had, I think it's 7 or 8 episodes where he just looked at headless guitars really in depth and the difference in designs of different headless guitars. And he goes from a player's perspective about how they work, what's really good about them, and just compares everything you can possibly think of. And he's done that with other things, not just headless guitars. And like this one, which is only a few weeks old, is where he talks about, let's see, and get about this weird shaped guitar by a company called Glyn. But it's just really interesting because he talks about how the design shape affects how you play it. Like this is designed to be held in a certain way. And he talks about the fact, I hadn't really considered, that most guitarists will play their guitar at a bit of an angle. and he had photos of lots of guitarists showing their angles. But when they sit down, almost everyone puts it on their one knee, and it's almost exactly parallel with the floor, which isn't ideal. So you talk about why he might play it differently and why this guitar is shaped the way it is. Yeah, I just found it really interesting. I know someone here obviously thinks about that with their designs.
Looks like there might be some lap dancer shapes in some of those guitars.
Yeah. You know, when I did that, I was just trying to find something that was the most ergonomic and invented the Strandberg, and it's already here. So
it's just interesting to hear someone that's not a builder talk about it, I think.
Yeah, I would like to go watch that.
Yeah, so he's got a few about ergonomics of guitars that might appeal to you.
Yeah, I'd forgotten there have been times where I go down the rabbit hole looking at basses, because I've spent all of like 5 minutes with a bass, but some of them are really fun to watch.
Do you want to jump in, Arran, with
Yeah,
one?
I'll share a couple. Might just change the order a little bit, but that won't matter. So maybe, whoops, hang on. Since we've had a teaching kind of thing so far, share screen. Where are we? Share this one first. So for me, probably from, I'll just scroll down to, come on, load. I'll leave it on that one for the moment. Now it's off. Sorry. You'd think I'd be used to this by now. There we go. So yeah, Guitar Lessons 365, this guy, Carl Brown. So as a sort of guitarist, when I'm like over the years playing, different cover shows or genres or bands or, school kind of concerts or whatever, that, I've got to learn a lot of songs from different genres. So often, I'll go to YouTube first to do a bit of a search to find out the tutorials, and probably 9 times out of 10, whenever I do a general search, this guy always comes up. So you can see there he's got quite a following, but basically it is just tutorials of how to play different songs. Let me go, back here. So you can sort of see, if I do a slow scroll, the types of songs and bands that he's doing tabs for and demonstrations that he plays it at normal speed and breaks it down like a lot of the guitar videos sort of do. But he's kind of, often you'll watch these kind of videos and you don't know how accurate they are, depending on who's created them. And sometimes, you'll start learning and practicing and you realise that it's not quite right, or there's people that have 3 or 4 different versions or variations of something. Whereas this channel here, to me, they always seem, as close as anyone is going to be able to get. So he's sort of, and I'm pretty sure I'm not subscribed to him, but as I said, when I search for songs to learn how to play them, this is the one that comes up, quite a fair bit.
I always wonder, back to what Scott mentioned about Art of Guitar, talking about those tab books. I always wonder how my learning of guitar would have been different if I had YouTube and not tab books.
Right.
I think about my son's 15 and plays guitar as well, and he's really quick at watching a video and kind of learning based on the video. But you guys are probably the same as me, that when I was a teenager learning guitar, if it was try to work it out by listening to it myself, getting a friend who knew how to play it to do it, or you go into the guitar shop and actually buy the tab, the tab sheet music of the actual song. And I've still got probably half a dozen, tabs of songs that I wanted to learn. And And of course, that as a 15-year-old, when you're learning, it's like, oh, I'm going to get the Stevie Ray Vaughan and the Jimi Hendrix ones because I want to learn those songs. Then you get them home and you look at them and you think, oh, what am I doing? So I think, I don't know, part of me is like, I'm glad that I had to, it wasn't as easy, but certainly now as an adult, I love being able to get on YouTube, and that's sort of my first learning thing. And I'll find a video, not necessarily of a tutorial, but just to watch someone play it, just to see what chords or shapes or patterns or parts of the neck they're using, and I'll kind of try to play along to someone where I can watch them. And then after that, I'll go to a breakdown of, here's this section and follow along, and then go to, to tabs off Ultimate Guitar or something like that as the last. And often then it's picking and choosing, parts from all of them that sort of suit what I can do, because some of the bits are just too difficult. And it's like, I'll find a different version.
Yeah, my OCD like to collect, so I have a ton of the books. There weren't that many available way back when. They were all Cherry Hill, but I have a ton. And then I had, Guitar Magazine, and there were several magazines that would do like 5 songs tabbed out. And at some point, I chopped those out and put them in a 3-hole binder and tossed the magazines, and I still have all that crap.
I did exactly the same. I threw the magazines away, but kept all the songs. And I had them alphabetically arranged so I could just pick a song when I needed it. It was just brilliant. And then it took up so much space. And before I moved to Brighton, I lived in quite a small flat, and it just took up so much space. So I ended up selling all these ring binders of music, and it was so much. I thought so much space. I thought no one's actually going to buy this because you can just have it all online. But someone bought it. It was like really cheap. That was sold it for on eBay, and he was like, "My daughter's going to love this. She's just learning to play. This is just like a wealth of stuff." But of course, it was all 90s and earlier music. But yeah, I kind of regret getting rid of it.
I got a few magazines still, but I got rid of a lot. But I've still got I can see them here on the shelf next to me. That a lot of the shows or gigs that I've played, it is following along to the music, as you're playing. It's not just like a pub show where you remember it all. So I've kept like all of the folders or all of the, or even the charts when I was just learning the songs. So it's a stack of probably folders. I can see on the shelf. About that high in the shelf of like everything I've ever played live, basically, where I've had a physical bit of paper to learn the song.
Well, it's funny. I've got all that crap. I can't play anything. And if I did want to find something, I would just Google it, Once upon a time, you felt like those were the Holy Grail. Those were the tab Bibles. That was the truth. You didn't know how bad they actually were. And you go looking for, something online, and there's 50,000 different versions of it. And you're like, they all have to be wrong unless they're all the same. It didn't seem as reliable, and nowadays it kind of is. However, having the paper in front of you when you try to play versus trying to scroll a screen is a little better.
Yeah,
it's more comfortable.
Every now and then I'm tempted on the ultimate. I think it's Ultimate Guitar, where you can pay a subscription, and then they've kind of got like official tabs, whatever that means. So the ones that they've created that are 100% accurate. So often when I'm, as close to accurate as they're allowed to be or can be, but often when I'm sort of scrolling through all the variations and getting frustrated, it's like, oh yeah, that bit of that one like works well, and then this bit of that one works well. It's kind of like, oh man, thought let me sign up for a month and just learn a few and then get rid of it again. But I've resisted that.
While we're on that, because I did that once, because then you can play along with I think a lot of it's MIDI, but you can cut things in and out, so you can drop an instrument and play along. And I did that so I could get some drum tracks to play along with. But I shared this a minute ago, but Poonin just suggested these 2 channels, Elevated Jam Tracks and Amazing Backing Track. Sorry, and You Shred. That's it. I'll get there in a minute.
Yeah, as we've been talking, I'm remembering other channels.
Yeah.
And backing one of them.
Absolutely. I'm just going to share my screen a minute. I recently was recommended Kyla Kent. Oh, wait a minute. Is this going to share my sound? Let me do that again. Yeah, also share tab audio. It will do. She basically on her channel plays Dimebag Darrell solos. But
I've seen a number of people like that on Instagram.
Annoyingly, I got to bit which wasn't her shredding so much. But the reason I saw her is the first video I watched of her was her going backstage at a Pantera gig, a recent Pantera gig, and not actually watching the band so much, but watching Zach Wild's guitar tech and seeing what he was doing, which I'll mention in a minute. But apparently the band said to her they were, they had Zach Wild, so they can have Zach Wild join them. But if next to Zach Wild, it might have been her because she's the closest they've ever heard anyone play to Dimebag.
That's great.
Yeah, what I like about this is the ability we have now to watch someone close up playing. Because when I tried to learn Pantera songs when I was younger, I don't think I really understood how he was bending and doing the harmonics. I read up on them, I tried to emulate them, but it's not the same as watching someone's actual hands doing it.
Yeah.
And when we were probably watching those as well, it was on the the VHS tape, and it was too grainy to actually see individual strings and where their fingers were.
Yeah, I had a VHS tape of Flea being interviewed by River Phoenix about how to play bass.
Interesting.
Yeah, so what the thing she said about Zach Wild's guitar tech, I can't remember if I mentioned this in a previous episode, but Zach Wild doesn't use his wah or whatever it is, the pitch shifting thing that Dimebag uses. The guitar tech does it. So the guitar tech is backstage doing that so Zach Wild can walk around. And to make sure that the gaps between the stabs are totally silent because he's got so much distortion on and gain, so there's always a fuzz, he manually slides down the volume, the guitar tech, in the gaps. So he's there using his feet and using the sliders. It's just bonkers.
Crazy.
So to find out.
Puppet Master is busy.
So look, I'm going to share. I'm sure you've heard of KDH. He actually did a video about Stevie T. But when I first heard about him, it was because he was doing something about Rob Chapman and about Rob Chapman scamming people and things like that. And I really thought it was not very good YouTube because it was felt like he was exploiting other people, and I didn't really enjoy it very much. But although he still does that a bit, I find his videos quite entertaining, and I've started watching them now. He did one recently about PV and the fact that that PV might have been having some of their guitars made by people in prison in a certain state in America. And all of these things, he tries to do loads of research in it. And I think it is very much sort of exploiting a thing and trying to make a story that isn't really there. But I do enjoy watching them for some reason. That, like, particularly this ESP lawsuit one, he's gone into the history of ESP. He did one with Dean, and it talks about how parent companies own other companies and how much money they earn, how much debt they're in. And it was really in-depth and really interesting, but I always have to step back and think he's just making these so they're big clickbait stories, and there's not really necessarily a story there. Like the PV Prison one came from an interview that someone did 5 years ago where they hinted that might be what PV does. But doesn't seem to be any evidence that PV actually do that, and he was looking into it. And by the way, I have no problem with people in prison making things. It's like in my past life of working in arts, I sometimes worked in prisons, and lots of the prisons I worked in had call centers in them, so people were doing calls, and I always thought that was a bit like almost like slave labor. But some of the jobs people do, they learn skills, and it keeps people working. It gives them something to do, and not just be sort of segregated and secured somewhere. And what's wrong with that? Because those prisons need to be paid for in some way. But anyway, would you buy a PV amp knowing it had been made by a prisoner? Probably not, actually.
That wouldn't make much of a difference to me.
No, it's that or a child in China. One of.
Yeah, that's
He does
a
either of
lot
those.
more problematic. That's a lot more problematic. Those kids should be playing and having a good time. And prisoners, who cares? That's
Anyway, I do find his in-depthness very interesting, and how much detail he goes into, and it just gives you sort of different insight into some of the companies.
I've never seen him before, but
Oh, right. Well, I recommend you watch some of his things, but just remember that a lot of what he's doing, I think it's a bit like almost conspiracy theory-esque.
I think I've had a few. I recognise him from a few, recommended things on my stream or whatever, but I haven't. Yeah, can't say I've watched any of his videos in sort of full.
It's just a different sort of take on guitars, really. A different thing to what else is there.
Interesting. You were talking about basses. That reminded me of Davey 504. Oh
yeah, of course.
I was hoping you would know him. He's just his junk is always ridiculous, but it's hilarious usually, and man, he's good. Yes,
really, really amazing player.
Yeah. So 10 years ago, if you told me I would be amazed watching bassists play, I would have, thought you were crazy. But the really good ones are amazing.
Yeah. I think him and Stevie T do a really great job of like that crossover into that mainstream YouTube entertainment element as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, his Davey style is so weird, but man, he's good. It's amazing.
He's one of those people that does like he'll challenge people to bass-offs on streaming sites and things like that, or he'll ask someone on Fiverr to write a bass line for him, and he'll pay people different amounts and see if the person he paid £300 for is better than a £5 bass line.
Yeah, those are surprisingly entertaining to watch. I had a lot of fun working. Yeah, it's always good stuff.
Do you want me to share a couple more?
Yeah, why not?
Get started. Some are related to what we've been talking
about. He unshared.
That's funny. I've got my tabs open here of pages to recommend. I was just flicking along to see which ones there were, and one of them, the tab says our top guitar YouTube channels. I was like, I wonder what one that was. And I clicked on it and it was us.
That sounds.
I think I might have just dropped out there. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, anyway. You did.
So let me try to. I might have pressed the wrong button this time. Share screen. So, yeah, people are probably familiar with these the rig rundowns that Premier Guitar do. So these are, like to get backstage access to guitar techs and what they're doing is just cool. Like, the first couple that I found were for probably the big name guitar heroes of mine, and I couldn't believe that you could actually see their setup and have it explained. Almost they wanted people to know what they were doing rather than kind of hiding it from the world. So yeah, I really enjoyed these over the years, whether it's a big touring stadium act or whether it's someone in a like a smaller pub or bar venue. So I kind of these probably. I don't think I'm subscribed to Premier Guitars because obviously they do other things as well as
like the PRS Guitar Factory tour. I just took a look. I've seen a few, but I didn't pay that much attention, and now I'm subscribed. So
yeah, so they've got and they've been doing them for years. So you can go back. And often they'll have like the same artists maybe 5 or 6 years apart, so you can kind of see what's changed and hear the difference. So sometimes it's the actual musician or the guitarist. Other times it's their guitar tech. Obviously the the famous guitarist is too busy to be doing it. So yeah, these are really good. You know, I think I went through a stage for about a year that I just scrolled through and watched every one of a guitarist that I knew, and now it's sort of being a bit more sort of picking and choosing.
Yeah, just looking
what ones.
Mick's suggesting that Justin Hawkins' Rig Rundown is one of the best YouTube videos ever.
Oh, okay.
Big words. Have to look into that. Which, by the way, I almost put Justin Hawkins on here because he's got a channel which basically involves him listening to songs and breaking them down. But he's just such a great musician. It's a really interesting insight into partly how things are written, partly how singing works, because he talks a lot about his singing practice. But also, he will always seems to drop in anecdotes about the things he's done. And I mean, the Darkness weren't exactly Motley Crue, but it sounds like they did some exciting things.
Yeah. I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess that the Rig Rundown for Diarrhea Planet may not be the best video ever, but it may be interesting.
Well, they're clearly a big enough band to get on the Rig Rundown.
Never heard of them, but now I have.
Yeah, that's sort of the good thing that you've got. I've watched, some of ZZ Top and Santana and, all these awesome acts that have been around forever. And then you see these new up-and-coming guitarists, or often they're probably a lot of, US acts that we sort of don't hear about in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just really cool. Just to hear the on-stage sort of sound and to explain, just to see the difference that some guitarists love the in-ear monitors, so that's all they're hearing. Others like the big wall of sound behind them. Others like the monitors in front. Others, don't want any stage. I think it was, who was it? Maybe it was the ZZ Top one that Billy Gibbons, he was saying he likes to hear the sound coming from the front of house. So he doesn't have no monitors, not even in the wedges. He actually likes hearing the sound that the audience is hearing and sort of playing off that. So all these really, a guitarist that's how they hear what they're playing compared to someone that's hearing the sound there is just chalk and cheese. So it's all those little things that, you just learn from about them. And, even like with
what it's like to play in front of, on a huge stage in front of tons of people and try to, hear what's going on and stay.
Yeah.
I saw Rig Rundown years ago, and I haven't been able to find out who it was because it's just lost. I think it might have been Pearl Jam and the basis of Pearl Jam. But the reason I've been trying to find it is that their bass tech was saying that whoever it was likes playing really worn down strings. So whenever they replace strings on his bass, they have to be really worn down. So they have like spare basses that they play a lot to wear the strings down on and then swap them over. And I thought that was such an interesting idea, and I can't remember who it was.
Huh.
So I haven't been able to find it again.
Usually there's something I saw years ago, and 2 seconds of searching and you can find it. There's one video I've been looking for like crazy, and I cannot for the life of me ever find it. There was one dude that was making a ukulele, and I swear it was like Bloodwood or Paduke or something. It was pinkish in wood, and it was just amazing. And it's the one thing that made me think I might want to do an acoustic someday, but I'll be damned if I can find that video. And I remember the dude was making it for his fiance. I remember details that I should be able to search for, and
I think Corey might have hit it. Might be Soundgarden. When I said Pearl Jam, yes, Soundgarden sounds right. I've got this as well. Do you ever watch Trogley's Guitar Show?
Yes.
He uploads every day. So there's the video every day, and some of the videos are 10, 20 minutes long. But essentially, I don't know exactly what his background is, but he collects old guitars and rare guitars. And also he often buys guitars in to review them and then sells them on. And he's a massive nerd, Corey's put here. He also has lots of followers and patrons, I think, who will send him incredibly expensive guitars to give breakdowns on. But he's got so much knowledge about the guitars that when he's looking at them, he can talk about the changes in different models, from like a Les Paul model from a certain year is different for this reason. And I've been following him for years, but recently I've got into it because of him pointing out those slight differences in how the guitars are built at different times. And it's made me think a bit more about decisions that I might make in the way I build things as well. Yeah, it's really interesting. And unfortunately, he put a video up recently that I thought was great, but had a comment in it I didn't like, which I'll tell you about in 1 second. It was about one of his guitars that went missing that he saw being sold on Reverb, and the whole story about how he had to contact someone to tell them it was stolen and try and get them their money back and the guitar back to him without it just being confiscated from the person that thought they had legitimately bought it from someone who had stolen it. But the back end of this story is it was stolen by luthier. He'd sent lots of guitars to a luthier to be repaired and since has found them for sale online. And he disparagingly said that you can never trust a luthier, which I thought was terrible. But anyway, yeah, I just find his absolute nerdiness about the knowledge of guitars so interesting.
It's been a while since I watched. I'm going to have to catch up.
Yeah. I've been writing notes as we go. I know you said you're going to put them in the description or whatever, Daniel, but yeah, I've been scribbling notes as I go.
If you've got extra notes, we can put ones in we've missed. I think.
No, just the ones I'll watch tomorrow when I have a moment to do it.
There, apart from that one about his stolen Flying V, which I found really interesting, there's not like one video over any others that I would recommend. They're just all, there's always something about when he's talking about a guitar design or where the history of the guitar or how it fits into like the story of Gibson that's just nerdy and interesting. While I've got my tab open, I'll click on the last one I've got, who I only came across recently, and his channel's only a year old. And some of the videos are just hosted by this guy called Matt, and sometimes, like the one that I'm going to mention here, is him and I've forgotten the other guy's name, Jack. But the Matt on the left is a lawyer, and they'll talk about the legalities, and he does talk about the fact that he's an American lawyer, so sometimes the laws might be a bit different. Legalities of certain things, like trademarks. And so this is the Odd Box, which has just come up, which is a rip-off of the OCD clone, and the legality of doing it and why it is actually legal for this company to make a replica of it, because Full Tone stopped making them. But now they've started making them again. And the legality of what happens when someone who originally was making them stopped making them and now is making it again, how that fits in with the law, how people like Dean or Gibson suing certain companies for having similar shapes, how they're precedent for certain laws and why people are allowed to actually copy other shapes. It's just really a totally different take on thinking about guitars. But I haven't watched a lot of his videos because there's 50 of them, so it's not a huge amount, but not all of them seem to appeal to me from the titles. But I started subscribing to him because if there's more of those things about the law of design and copyright, that really appeals to me. And I'm hoping to see more of that as it comes out.
Interesting.
Well, I might share again. I've got two more that I've got. So, the first one's probably pretty familiar to people. So that pedal show, is that? It's coming up now. So probably in the UK, it's a lot more well known than over here. But yeah, this is one that I could just watch every video just in order and never do anything else. This is the one I kind of, when I go down a rabbit hole of gear and pedals and effects and amps, I just get stuck into watching it. Or, if I'm thinking about getting a new pedal or want to know something about it, you search here and you'll find it. And even their Q&As that they do, that I'm a bit like this. It's they do it as the live stream. But it's one I listen to like in the car when I'm driving to work, that, you know, the questions that the viewers have about different pedals or pedal boards or amp setups and things like that. So it's one that even something that's a Q&A, I won't sit there and watch it for an hour, but I'll certainly have a good listen. So, so certainly one that, too many tabs. Yeah, one that that I really enjoy, and they obviously have a lot of videos and pretty regular sort of uploads, and different guests in where, you know, they bring in their boards or reviews or whatever. So that's that one.
Yeah, I think Dan runs a company as well, doesn't he, that makes pedal boards or does something like that?
The gig rig, and I'm actually one that I've sort of been thinking about getting one of the switcher or looper systems, and I think it's he's the gig rig quartermaster, which is what I'm going to look into getting in the next few months. But the suppliers, they've got a couple of suppliers in Australia, and they're sold out. They don't have any, so I emailed them the other day to find out when they're getting them, and they said it'd be in a couple of weeks. And I can order them direct from the UK from their website, but there's no conversion rate on the website, and the shipping cost was like, you know, £70 to ship over. It's like, so I'm kind of, you know, I've gone into all the conversion sites to work out how much it'd be. So I think I'm just going to have to wait a couple of weeks. But yeah, his gear, you know, the company, the gig rig seems top quality stuff. But yeah, the quartermaster is just basically a strip that you have all your pedals in and out. So they're sort of taken out of the signal chain when they're off. So all those, you know, the tech nerdy stuff, I really enjoy sort of watching. And, you know, they're both awesome guitarists as well. So just to sit and watch them play and listen to them play is really good as well.
Awesome.
They're another pair where I like their interaction. I find them quite fun.
Yeah, yep.
Reminds
I
me
think they do. They do. They do. What do they call them? Experience days or something, where I think you can, you know, if you're a guitarist and you've got your own board, you can actually, you know, sign up and, you know, pay to go in and you take your board in there, and they'll play through it and, you know, give you some tips and advice of how you might change things or set it up differently, or, you know, even suggest things you could switch in and out. So I know that's something that, you know, that quite a few guitarists over here would love that opportunity to do. So I've got one more, and then we can see what else we've got. So this last one, Paul Davids.
Oh yeah, classic.
Yeah, so he's as a guitarist, you know, he's a brilliant musician, and what he does sounds really good. But just some of the different videos that he has, sometimes it might be talking about particular types of guitars, you know, cheap versus expensive. He's done a few. I'll see if I can find one.
I should have thought of him too.
Yeah. Where are they? You know, where he writes a chord progression and then sends it off to 8, you know.
Just on at the top there, the solo challenge.
I forgot about
yep.
one of the most recent ones. I've watched it 1,000 times.
Yep. Yeah, so some of those, the solo challenges are just really cool to see. And it's almost like, oh, yeah, man, I want that riff. Just give me that little progression. And I think he probably has them for sale, or you can download them as a, Patreon. There's access somewhere probably. But, just to hear that. And he just seems like a genuine, genuine guy. And there was the video where they took the rig into, was it a decommissioned nuclear tower or something, like a massive open echoey sort of chamber. So the idea was to get like, you know, this massive natural reverb, which obviously, you know, it's coming through mics and then the world of YouTube and in through your speakers. So it's going to sound different, obviously, but the impression that you got just hearing him play this, beautiful guitar in this massive cavernous echoey space with this natural reverb was really cool. I think I'm sure it was an old nuclear reactor or nuclear tower or something like that, or a new one maybe that hadn't been used yet. So yeah, really, really interesting videos.
They're really diverse as well. I like he does guitar comparisons, string comparisons. Like there's one, the same guitar on 4 budgets.
Yep.
I remember enjoying that one. But also he has things about songwriting, and I really enjoyed, again, this is showing back to that blues lawyer. He did a video where he'd been demonetized for a video because he'd broken copyright with somebody because he had their song in his video. But it turned out the other person's video was his song. They'd used his song and he'd been demonetized. So he managed to track down that person, and they had thought they'd bought a royalty-free bit of music that they'd written over the top of and turned into a song instead of just an instrumental. But it turned out the company that put it up had sort of illegally copied it. And it's just so interesting how it sort of...
I think I've seen that one too, yeah. Here's he's playing guitar at a nuclear power plant. So that's the one there. So watch that one. That's really cool just to hear what it sounds like.
Wow.
I've got to say, those solo ones you were talking about where different people solo over the top, I've ended up following quite a few other people because of those videos. They're other guitarists.
Yeah. I think it was the last one they did. Oh my God, there were 3 or 4 solos in there. I'd go back and watch the thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And it has turned me on to some other guitarist channels. But
there we are. Those there's some of them there.
I don't tend to follow people that just play, but there are a couple.
There we go. There's my selection finished.
I'd just like to end by sharing one more. Poo Ninja just mentioned him as well. So Mike, CGS Guitars. Unfortunately, Mike passed away last year, or was it earlier this year? I've lost track now. I think it was earlier this year. But his videos were, again, quite varied. I think I started watching him when he was doing his live streams. He used to do live streams with his community every weekend. They were very interactive, really friendly. He put up videos that people in his following had sent him as well. But he also did guitar reviews. He started off as China Guitar Skeptic, and he would order like those cheap copies of guitars from China. And apparently he coined the phrase Chibson. But he'd order those and just show that actually some of them are reasonably good for what you get paying for. They're reasonably good. And he'd talk about the legalities of it all and things like that. And then some of his later videos are sort of breakdowns of different types of guitarists and different guitarists and their style of playing. But he had this one series in which Paul Davids was mentioned because it was him researching the Monterey Strat that Hendrix played, because it was up for sale, and there was a video Paul did of him playing it. But actually, Mike managed to track down the fact that that was probably a fake, and he had all these videos revealing things that led to more evidence and trying to get interviews with people about it all. It was fantastic. Really, really great stuff. Really friendly guy. It's sad to miss him. He, I can't remember how I met him originally, but he came around to my studio to record a little video about the stuff I was making. And yes, so brilliant person.
Crazy. Awesome stuff.
So I won't do it tonight. I won't do it now, so I might do it tonight. But I'll put in the description a list of the channels we've mentioned, and I'll try and watch back through the chat. Although sometimes that takes 24 hours to appear on the video, and I'll add any ones that I see that people mention there in the chat as well. So it's a little archive of things people can go and look at if they want to.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Yeah, we've done an hour and 5 minutes again. Apparently, the ideal length for a show is 30 minutes. I don't know about that.
Oh. Well, we're in trouble.
Well.
A couple of the shows I listen to as podcasts have started doing. So they have Patreon only streams, but they've started annoyingly talking in their mainstream about what they're going to talk about in the Patreon, and it's always a topic I really want to listen to. So I think I'm going to be subscribing to a few different people that
annoys
like
me.
my outgoings going up just to hear that. But we include it all here.
Mm.
So it'll be, people might want to know that next week we've got Tyler from Shop the Fox that he'd join us.
Yep.
Because of the time zone differences, though, I'm not sure if he'll be here right at the start of it all, but he can only be here for just under an hour. So it might be just at the start, 45 minutes in, or a bit later and join us.
Yep.
Guys,
Good.
director. That will be good. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
He's been putting a few clips up for his Great Guitar Build-Off video, so it'd be good to pick his brains about that next week.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by that. I'm intrigued by his, if he can tell us about his trip to Stu Mac. And
True.
Oh, daylight saving next week. How does that affect you, Arran?
Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Does that mean we're keeping you up later?
It'd be an hour. I always forget whether it's an hour later or earlier. I'll work it out and let you know, or Corey can work it out and tell us before we finish. I bet it'll be. I reckon it might be an hour later
as well. I can't remember.
Yeah, I reckon it might be an hour later. It might be 11 o'clock for me. Anyway, I'll confirm that. I'll confirm that and let you know.
I don't know when ours is. Well.
I better check when ours is.
Yep.
Yeah, we might have to do some jigging round then if things change.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, we might.
Hopefully we can find a time. You get more sleep at the end of the year.
Then
Depends when you
again,
go to bed.
it is, like
Go to bed at-
one terrible week.
There we go. A week later for me, so it'll be 11. So we'll see. We'll get our thinking caps on.
Yeah, and I don't
Well,
know
I mean,
the same.
I don't know if Scott will want to do an hour earlier.
No, that's what I mean.
That's hard for you if you're teaching.
Yeah. Might force me to start adulting, and I'm not ready for that. I'm only 50.
Anyway, that's a problem for the next
We
few
can
days.
discuss that instead of all sitting here going,
We'll discuss it after
discuss
we
that.
go. We're still here, so.
Yeah, we already lost one viewer. Spring forward.
Great. All right then.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking forward to checking out some new YouTube channels over the weekend then.
I got a couple I need to go watch too. Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, see you all next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Taco.